class. I am thrilled to have with us here Russell Edmond of Russell of Hotels. This is actually going to be a fun interview for me because I've been on Russell's show podcast twice, and he's the one been pitching the interview questions. This time I get to pitch him and he can catch them. How about that, Russell?
So you're saying I'm on the hot seat then?
You're on the hot seat. You're on the hot seat.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Before we get started, I just want to brag on my friend. In addition to him having a successful site selection company where he serves 12 clients, and those 12 clients place 22 meetings annually, and those 22 meetings. I'm loving this Freudian slip for you, my friend.
Yes, wow.
On you, 22 million meetings. When we hit end of recording, that's what's coming your way. I think that was a premonition, right?
Well, that's good. $22 million is good. I don't need 22 million meetings, just $22 million.
There you have it. 22 million something is coming your way. Positive stuff with dollar signs. I'm feeling it. Anyhow, those 22 meetings consume over 10,000 room nights a year. So give me a hand in welcoming Russell to the Hospitality Sales Masterclass. Thank you so much for joining us, Russell. It's a pleasure to have you here.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you. I've never been on this side, so be easy on me, but I do appreciate you asking me. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much, or to be part of your masterclass.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Russell, if you could start to share with the folks on the class here, what was your background prior to hotel site selection?
Wow. How far do you want me to go back? Just right before? Or, well,
as far back as you'd like. I'd like the audience to get to know you better. They really want to know. I'll ask you the second question, but this will lead into it quite well, I think.
Okay. Well, all started back in Blythe, California. No, that's a joke. Okay. So I actually went to hotel school many years ago, thinking that I wanted to get into hospitality. Well, I actually didn't know what I wanted to get into. I was actually a business major, just a general business major, and then wasn't really sure that I wanted to go straight business administration or whatever, and just started taking classes in different majors. And one of those majors was hospitality management. And it's funny, the first class I took had to do with McDonald's. It had to do everything to do with McDonald's. And this professor he was a consultant for McDonald's, so he knew everything, every intricate detail about French fries and how much salt they put on and all this kind of stuff. And I said, I thought this was kind of fascinating. So not that I wanted to go in food and beverage, but it was just interesting to know, because I never worked for McDonald's. I never did fast food as a kid or anything like that. So it was just interesting how much knowledge this gentleman had. And from there, I started taking other classes, hospitality, hotel sales, or hotel operation classes, hospitality law, all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of gravitated to that. And next thing I know, I was about to graduate with a degree in, it was at that point, it was called hospitality management, which was part of Cal Poly Pomona's program. Now it's called Collins School of Hospitality Management is what it's called now. But then from there, I started with Marriott. My first job was as a housekeeping manager trainee with Courtyard Division of Marriott International. And I still remember the people that hired me and everything. I remember going to a job fair, it was outside on our quad, and I came up, and these two people who represented Marriott is Bridget Belinsky and Sam Veneziano. They were just so, I don't know, they were more happy to see me than I was happy, whatever. But they say, oh my God, you have this great smile and this great personality and all this, and I was like, oh, is that what Marriott's all about? And I knew a little bit about Marriott, but I didn't know a lot. But those two people sold me on going with Marriott, because I had other offers to go straight into sales with Sheraton, which was Sheraton ITT back in the day. I had a job offer to go with them, but it was in New Orleans. It's like, I'd never even been out of California. Why would I go to New Orleans? But I ended up signing to go with Marriott, and I had a job probably 9 months before I even graduated, which was great. So I started I started as a housekeeping manager trainee. Then with Courtyard, you had three different what do you call it, disciplines that you go through. You went with I started in housekeeping, then you go to front desk, or you go to restaurants or food and beverage or whatever. So I ended up doing at least two of those disciplines, and I ended up leaving. And I'm not going to tell you all the intricate details of leaving,
Right.
but we end up relocating to another city, and there was no Marriott products where I ended up going, which was in Sacramento. So I ended up working with a Sheraton, which was not part of Marriott back then. It wasn't even part of Starwood then. So and it was owned by a separate company. So I ended up, or a different company, it was a franchise. So I ended up, what was I doing? Okay, I ended up as a night manager, and then ended up being a assistant general manager. So just kind of learning and that's where I learned everything about how hotels operate. I mean, I learned a lot with Courtyard as far as housekeeping and front office, but when I made the transition to a full service hotel, which was a Sheraton outside of Sacramento, actually in Rancho Cordova, that's when I was exposed to, the true back of the house, the kitchen, what they did in housekeeping, what they did behind the scenes, and how everything kind of related. Because I always had aspirations of going into sales, but I needed to know how the entire hotel operation operated. So that way I could sell, I can honestly sell things and not promise things that we could not deliver on. So I basically knew all the ins and outs of banquets, I hung out with the chef. I mean, we talked about portion control and how he did menus and how he ordered. I learned all that kind of stuff. So from there, transitioned to another hotel. I actually came back to Southern California, same owner, but it was actually a Hilton in Woodland Hills. And that's when I got my start in sales. And it's funny that people didn't, I was doing sales calls as a night manager, as a / assistant general manager. I was doing sales calls and all this kind of stuff, right? And they're like, why are you doing all this? I said, because I want to get into sales. But I just needed the chance, right? I just needed someone to say, hey, this guy has what it takes to get into sales. And that took, several years for someone to actually notice and to give me a chance. And that was Tom Torrance. He gave me a chance, and I started going to sales. And then from my first sales experience to when I became a director of sales was probably about maybe 2-3 years. I'll say 3 years. And then I became a director of sales, ironically, with a hotel that was a Courtyard that was it was being reflagged as a Courtyard, and some of the people that knew me knew I had Courtyard background. So, and this was like a 180 room Courtyard in at LAX. It was the first LAX property. So transitioned from there to several other properties. I mean, I did Hilton. I did the Bonaventure downtown LA, which was at that time was the
That's a
largest
beast.
hotel. Yeah, and yeah, beast. Yeah, that's an understatement. That was my first big box or convention style hotel, over 100,000 square feet of meeting space. I learned how to stack meetings on top of meetings and things like that. And then I got a goal for mine was I wanted to be a director of sales and marketing of a big box hotel, not necessarily the size of a Bonaventure, but my goal was 500 rooms, over 40,000 square feet of meeting space. And 12 months into when I was at the Bonaventure, I get a call from a headhunter or whatever. I said, hey, there's a position open it was the Radisson LAX, which is now the Hyatt LAX. And I got the job as a director of sales and marketing there. So I was there for several years, and then your career goes to other hotels and things like that. And then my last hotel, and I'm kind of fast forwarding now because I've been to 14 different hotels. I don't want to go through every facet of my career, but I've been to 14 different hotels.
You're too young to have gone through 14 different hotels, but go on.
14 different hotels. And I'll just transition to the last hotel. The last hotel was as a director of sales and marketing. I was at the Sheraton Universal, which is right outside the steps of Universal Studios, right? So I was there for a couple years, and after that, I said, you know what? You get beat up a lot as a director, so especially at a high-profile property like that. And I figured if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to bust my butt for this, I might as well bust my butt for myself. So I left and started Russell of Hotels. Russell of Hotels actually started before that, but it I left at that point. I said, you know what, enough's enough, and I kind of transitioned out. But I did forget that 2 years before that, I was a general manager at a 200 room property before I went back into sales. So I have the GM experience as well as director of sales experience. So it's close to 30 years of experience, if you can believe that or not.
Wow.
But if you count school and things like that. So, and then just made the transition to be I thought meeting planner at first, but that, evolved into hotel site selection.
Wonderful. Well, thanks. You started to go into my second question is, why did you choose site selection? Because you were working so hard and thought, hey, and I have been a director of sales myself. And I said, it's a thankless job. All of those directors of sales out there, hats off to you.
Definitely.
Because, you want to protect the team that you're guiding and shepherding. And sometimes you're not doing things that are popular to the team because you've got direction from the top, and that's who signed your paycheck. So you have to handle that. And sometimes the top doesn't appreciate what your sales folks are doing. Folks that don't have their feet on the ground don't always understand that something sounds great in theory, but in practice it doesn't actually work. And
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, it does sound great.
Exactly.
And here's why this is what will work, this is what won't work, but if you want us to prove it for you, we can.
Exactly.
We can, but that's the part that I thought was, navigating the politics as well as, inspiring and motivating a team. That's an interesting combination. When you're the director of sales, you're kind of in that sandwich position. So as I shared with you when we did our pre-call for this class, I did market research with about 30 hospitality sales professionals. And the reason that I started to do the interviews is because of the next question that people asked, actually the next two questions, which is, how do we select the hotels we send the RFPs to? And I wanted to do these interviews because I know how I do it. I know how I train Avery Murphy Associates to do it. I was formerly with Helms Briscoe, so I have an idea of how a lot of Helms Briscoe associates do it, but that's not a big enough sample set. And other people have recipes for their clients and how they select the hotels that they send their RFPs to. And it's, one isn't better than another. One makes sense for an individual portfolio's client base. So how do you go about selecting the hotels to send the RFP to on behalf of your clients?
Well, it all starts with the conversation with the client. And most of the things, or 100% of the things that I do is based on what the client is asking me or telling me to do. So if I have an RFP for Southern California, then I'm going to try to ask what the history of that particular program is in Southern California, which hotels have they used in the past, or have they, if it's a first time meeting, then I know that I'm kind of out there on my own and just kind of not necessarily winging it, but along the way, I'm letting them know that, okay, I'm a source these specific hotels, just so you know, and then just let me know if you want a broader search or not. But if it's Southern California, then I'm trying to determine, okay, Southern California, is that greater Los Angeles? Does that include San Diego? Does that include Santa Barbara? I mean, just kind of let me know. And then some of those things you can figure out on your own. It's based on what their budget is, because that's one of the first things you want to ask is, what's your budget? And then that kind of will determine where I start. And then I use CVent. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I use CVent to source out the meetings. But basically, if I have a relationship with hotels already in that particular, say, let's just say it's greater Los Angeles. Let's just use that for an example. If the ones that are going to get the top billing are the ones that I have previous relationships with, either I've used them before in the past, or maybe I work with someone that works at one of those hotels. So it just depends on who's the last person I talked to, as who's going to be on that list. But I try to limit that, the search to, based on their parameters, or how big this meeting is, because every hotel won't work for every meeting, right? So, right. I mean, are we looking select service? Are you doing full service? Are you doing, do you want a resort property? Do you need a convention style hotel? It just depends. So all those questions I have to get from, or those answers have to be given to me from the client. And then we go from there. So, so they only want downtown properties, but they don't want convention style hotels. Well, that now I know that kind of limits the number of hotels I can send it to. But I try not to send I think the most hotels I send in one search is probably about 8. Because I want to keep it, I want to keep it relatively, not too much and not enough, just enough so they have choices. And basically when I get the responses back, I mean, they all get into a spreadsheet, and then of course I forward those over, and then we go line by line, why I like this hotel, or why I think it will work for that particular program. But at the end of the day, it's for the client. I mean, the client makes the decision, and sometimes they do ask me, well, what do you think about this one? I mean, why did you choose this? Why did you choose that hotel? And I'll tell them. I'm always open and candid about why. I actually had the director of sales I used to work with. We were sales managers together, or whatever that the case is. Or I know they just, recently completed a renovation. I mean, things like that. So my job as a hotel site selection is to go out and, especially in your backyard, when you have time, or sometimes you do have time, sometimes you don't, depending on how busy you are. My job is to go out and make sure I'm educated on what hotels are out there, the new ones, especially downtown now, where you have a lot more boutique hotels that are popping up, and they're, 150 to 200 rooms. And some of them have meeting space, some of them don't, because I do have clients that don't require meeting space at all. I do have transient clients, if you will. So I make sure I cover the whole gamut. I'm at the airport, I'm at downtown, I'm in the Valley, I'm in Santa Monica. I mean, all those places, because I never know where the client's gonna want to go. And I do videos for certain clients and things like that, just so they see the hotel and see my perspective of the hotel, so that way they know exactly, because sometimes they can't do site inspection, so they're relying 100% on me to do that. So I want to make sure I do my homework. So I mean, getting back to your original question, how do I select? I mean, I hopefully I did I did answer that question, but like I said, I try to limit to maybe 8 hotels. But if in those 8 hotels and they don't like it, if for whatever reason they don't like them, then I'll extend the search after that.
Well, and the biggest thing that I want the hospitality sales masterclass students to take from what you shared is the client drives this process. Mm-hmm. The more information you have, the better your search results are going to be on behalf of your client, but really the client drives the process.
Oh, yes.
And do any of your clients do multiple city searches? Do you end up doing those? Okay.
I've had several that have done, outside of the state, like say they want Southern California, and then, can you do Arizona too? Or Phoenix or Greater Scottsdale or something like that. So I have done multiple searches as well, because at that point they don't know, they're being driven by someone else, meaning, my client is my client, but someone is telling them what they need as well. And sometimes they can be, I mean, quite frankly, and it's not necessarily just the client, but they can be all over the place. And it's based on, like I have a client now that they just they merged with another company. So they're based in Southern California, but they were doing meetings in Arizona as well. So, okay, the first call I get is, okay, we want to do, because we just merged and we want to do this kickoff, whatever. We want to do it in the LAX area. I said, okay, all right. Well, then again, we just merged with a company in Arizona. Maybe we'll do it in Arizona this time. So now I had to abandon that search and go, simultaneously to Arizona too. So I still maintain the search in LA, because I don't know if they're going to go back and forth, that kind of thing. So that happens, that happens every now and then as well. So it just depends on the client and what's going on within that client's company or organization, which dictates what I do for my clients. So, but like you said, it's all driven 100% from what the client wants. It's never about me. It's always about the client.
And for the hospitality sales masterclass students, what I want them to understand from what you also just shared is sometimes the clients need the intelligence that we provide for them from the searches to determine, in the case of where you shared Southern California, LAX specifically, or Arizona, they'll get the availability, they'll get the rates, they'll get, depending on the dates and everything, they might say, hey, we never thought we could go at this type of resort in Arizona at these prices. And gosh, it's not much more than what I'd be paying at LAX. Let's see, resort and,
Exactly.
in the Arizona area that we've never been to, or do we do LAX, which isn't, depending on where you go, isn't as sexy as some of the places that you might be looking at in the Phoenix area. So, they might get everything. And then even though they were really thinking about it, their afterthought goes, well, now that we've got all this intelligence, that really makes more sense. And so sometimes what we're doing is providing them with information so that they can figure out what their next move and strategy is when it comes to their meeting or event.
Exactly.
So the whole point of this hospitality sales masterclass is to help hospitality sales professionals stand out to folks like yourself and myself. What could a hospitality sales professional say in a voicemail or write in an email that would inspire you to respond promptly?
What?
$1 million question, right?
Oh my God. I've never been asked that one before. What could a hospital say in a voicemail or writing that would inspire me to reply promptly?
Yes.
I would
you,
try to
Russell.
turn that around. I would try to turn it around. What would make them reply quickly to me?
When that kept coming up in the interview, I thought, oh my goodness gracious, if you could only be a fly on the wall in our meetings when I was with Frisco. But yes.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I'll take it as easy as I can here. Well, it's it all depends on the client. It's all driven by the client, right? I mean, but I do respond, and I must say this. I do respond. I try to be ahead of the ball, ahead of the game. Meaning, when I know intel, I'm gonna tell my my hotel partner what I know from the client. So, like I said, everything is driven from the client. So a lot of times it's not me that's waiting to reply; it's the client that's waiting because they have to figure out, are they gonna have this meeting or not, or what's the next step, what's the next process, are we asking for a contract, what are we doing at this point, what stage of the process are we in? So it just depends. I mean, what would inspire me to reply? I mean, email, yeah, I like phone calls. I like really a phone call. I mean, emails are nice and this and that, but I like more of the personal touch. You pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, Russell, I was just calling to, follow up about XYZ organization on these dates, blah, blah, blah. What's the status of that? And then, that way we can have, it doesn't have to be a long conversation, couple-minute conversation, and then we're done, right? So, but I understand these days and the day and age of where you need documentation, right? So that's why I see why, we do that. When I was a director of sales, I would always tell my team to make sure you document everything. Make sure it's in an email. You can follow up with a phone call, but you initially do need to put that in an email form and then send it to them and then follow up with a phone call. But what would prompt me, like I said, it's all driven by the client, but just a nice voicemail, just, call me and say, hey, just thinking about, our group and this and that, working together, blah, blah, blah. And give me a call, that kind of thing. So, yeah. But like I said, I hate to turn this around, but my issue sometimes, and I don't know if I can say this on this, but my issue is that I don't get responses quick enough from my hotel partners sometimes. So that's,
Absolutely, you can share that on this forum because that is the challenge. We have, when I was working a bigger portfolio of business myself, before I started doing things like the Hospitality Sales Masterclass, I can remember when I started in hotel site selection in 2005. And at that time, it was an uptick in the economy and hotels weren't responding because at that time, my clients were state government business. And it wasn't real popular business. And so, I was working the phones, hustling, trying to get people to even respond to the RFP, let alone, having enough time to follow up with their phone calls and emails. Well, then fast forward in 2008, I would send out the same RFP to the same hotels and I got all the RFPs back. I got voicemails and emails and my work became more challenging because, you know, when it was buyer's market,
Yes.
you know, then everybody was, you know, grappling. When it's a seller's market, they're, you know, some of our hospitality sales professionals forget, and I shouldn't even say they forget. I know from my experience, they're directed by their stakeholders on what business they should be pursuing and how they should be pursuing it. And a lot of times they aren't given the autonomy to do what it is that they actually need to do. So, yeah. Okay, next question. Tell me about a client that you have had a long-term relationship versus a brand new client. How does that differ? What should hospitality sales professionals know about Russell with a client that you've been working with for years versus one that you just got a lead from yesterday? How is that process going to be different? What are your expectations from them going to be, and how do they differ?
Well, the long-term relationship is, I mean, we know each other. We're familiar with it. We've done multiple programs together, probably. So they know they can send me because I already have a knowledge of how they do business. So they can just send me dates and, okay, we're doing a meeting, sales meeting, whatever. So I pretty much would probably already know where they want to go based on their history. Okay, so because like a couple of clients that I have, I mean, I had when I was still in the hotels, when I was a sales manager. I mean, these people have followed me from being the sales manager to director of sales to now I'm an independent meeting planner or independent site selection company. So I know a lot of them. I know, you know, pretty intimate. So it's good for them to just be able to email them something. Hey, have this meeting, blah blah blah. You know, let me know what you think. Done. Okay, now a new client. Now it's going to be totally new because I have to. First of all, I don't know them. They don't know me. So I'm back to this, you know, selling myself as far as, you know, what I can do or what I'm capable of doing, what I've done in the past. And it's all based on, you know, a lot of these questions I'm about to ask you, right? So, you know, and I'm going to have to fact find information about them, which is it's not bad. It's just that it's getting to know each other. They have to know me. I have to know them because I'm trying to make sure that they're comfortable with me and my capabilities or me providing the intel. And I have to get that across that, you know, I'm transparent. I mean, whatever I come across, I'm going to let you know. If I don't think a hotel will work for your particular group, I'll let you know that as well. And I'll tell you why, though. I'm not just going to say, well, that won't work. You know, no, well, it won't work because of this. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? So it's more, a new client is more, I'm trying to figure them out. They're trying to figure me out. I'm trying to figure out their programs, where they've been in the past. Have they had programs before? Is it new versus, is this a first time? Because a lot of times I come across people that, and I'm sure you do too, where you have to do a lot more hand-holding than anything. Because being a meeting planner is not their sole role. They may be an assistant to the president or something like that of this organization, and this thing has been thrown on their desk and they don't know what to do, right? And they came to me because they were referred by someone that they knew, right? So I want to make sure I take my time. I mean, I'm always accessible for questions any time of day. It doesn't matter. Call me, email me, whatever. So, you know, like I said, I'm trying to, because at the end of the day, my job is to make them look good to their superior, to their boss or whatever. So I'm going to take time to make sure they know the ins and outs of what I do and how it's going to assist them with their program. And I mean, I'm just 100% open to them because, like I said, sometimes they're new, but if they're seasoned, then they understand the drill. But I still have to ask the questions, right? It doesn't eliminate if you're green, if you're experienced, it doesn't matter. I still have to ask the questions. And sometimes clients or new clients specifically can be kind of turned off by the amount of questions that you're asking. And that what I've learned in the past is that it's not because the line of questioning is that they don't know. And they don't want to tell you, well, I don't know that. I don't know that. Oh, let me go check. I said, well, and I'll start off the questions by saying, you know, some of this information you may not know, you may have to, you know, find out. And that's fine. I mean, just let me know when you find out the information, just let me know. That way I can, you know, log that down or log that in and then move forward from there. You know, what type of properties have you used before? What cities have you used before? Do you have, I mean, VIPs? I mean, there's a whole list of questions that you ask a new client versus one that I've had a long relationship with. So it just depends, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, who are your favorite hotel sales professionals? And you're free to name names, and you don't have to if you don't want to. Uh, but who are they, and why are they your favorites?
Well, I don't have any. No, I'm joking. I do. I mean, there's tons of them. Every hotel that I've dealt with, there's always some good stuff. And I've had a lot of issues. The issues that I have, I can tell you, are when the clients wait too long to do certain things, or we have changes. But that's to be expected. Changes are to be expected. But most of the clients, or most of my hotel partners are great. But I can name, yeah, I'll name a couple. I'll name a whole team at the Halcyon Hotel, which is in Cherry Creek. It's called the Halcyon, Halcyon. They're in Cherry Creek, which is part of Denver. Ben Powers, sales manager, Brandon Orr, PSAV, and Brad Porter, who's convention services. And the reason why I had a client that it was a first time client, right? I was introduced by another client of mine. And so, you know, you want to do your best because you always want clients to be long-term clients. I don't like having just this client only use me one time because it makes me feel I must have done something wrong or I didn't deliver. If it's a one and done, you know, that's
Right.
not what you want. You want long-term clients. And this was a brand new one. It was a university, and I mean she had meetings before, but like I said, she had never used me before. So, and I explained that to the hotel we finally selected, which was a Halcyon, and I said, I need you to do whatever you can to make sure this client is taken care of 100%. I need 100% attentiveness. I don't need, if she calls you, I need you to call her right back. I mean, that kind of thing. And they were very open to that. And normally I'm not that demanding because things do happen, but I said, hey, I need this to happen. So the Halcyon team, like I said, from Ben Powers, who's a sales manager, who I was introduced by the CVB of Denver. And then he kind of guided me through the steps. And then once the contract got signed, then it goes to convention services, and that was Brad Porter, and he was on it. As soon as the contract got signed, he called her the same day, called my client the same day, just introduce himself and let him know that he was there to assist her. And one of the main things for this particular program was AV. AV had to be flawless. So that's why Brandon Orr, who was with PSAV, he's the director of AV, I guess, yeah, with PSAV, he got involved too. So they were doing conference calls together and all this stuff. So I wasn't privy to any of that stuff because a lot of times once my job is done, the contract's been signed, I'm not necessarily in the loop unless I'm managing the whole meeting, which I'm not. I'm a hotel site selection, so my job was pretty much done. But it's done from done from contract phases and things like that. But that doesn't stop you from following up. So I'm still following up and finding out what's going on with my client as well as with the team at the Halcyon. And my client was saying, oh, you know, these people are great, this and that, they're doing this, thank you so much. Because you knew I facilitated the whole thing, regardless if I was, you know,
Right.
part of that or not, I was still facilitating it. And then I would call my partners at the hotel, and they would say, oh yeah, she's great too. No, we're good. We got this handled, this and that, you know, not knowing that I had just talked to my client too. So, but everything went flawless. Everything went great. And we rebooked that same hotel for the next, couple of years. So, and that's what you want. You want it to be as easy as possible. Of course, we always want to give other hotels a chance, to get this business as well. But if it works, and the client is happy, why fix it if it's not broken? So, but that team is good. And then I'll just name one other one, the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno. And that was my contact there was Doug Caldwell, who is now with Atlantis a resort in the Bahamas now, but he was with the Grand Sierra, and I had a couple of programs at that same hotel, and he facilitated everything for me. So he was just my point of contact. He's a national salesperson, but he had so much influence over convention services everything. You know, if the contract wasn't written right, I mean, he would make sure, you know, we would take care of that. We didn't have to do any addendums and go back and do it. He just made sure it happened. So I do appreciate him as well. So that's Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, and that was Doug Caldwell.
Cool. And I'm just going to share what I heard. Correct me if I misheard anything, but when hotels take really good care of your clients, that makes you look good, and that keeps a happy customer coming back to you. So really, your favorite hotel sales professionals are those that take care of your clients, and that makes you look good.
Exactly.
It's kind of simple, huh?
Yeah, go figure.
They're in the hospitality industry. They treat your clients with hospitality, and that makes your client happy, and that makes Russell happy. And how about that?
Exactly. And repeat business and everything. So
right.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. So, and before, you know, I don't know how, you know, I just remember when I was a director of sales or a sales manager, we weren't partners. We didn't call it, you know, partnering with, and maybe that's the new buzzword that came up maybe in the last 5 years or so. I mean, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been in the game a lot longer than I have. But I never felt like a partner when I was a partner to the meeting planner or the hotel site selection when I was on property. But now I see a lot more of that, meaning, you know, we're in this together. We want to make you look good, because I think now maybe more we understand, you know, we understand how the whole process works, meaning there's meeting planners, there's, you know, hotel site selection, there's, you know, there's CDP, Conference Direct, there's Helms Briscoe, and then there's independents too, right? So we're all doing the same things for the most part, but sometimes I didn't feel like my team, and this wasn't just my property. This was, I would ask people, other, you know, colleagues of mine, like, hey, you know, how do the meetings planners treat you, or do they treat you as a partner and things like that? Well, some of them said, well, yeah, they do, and some of them were, yeah, well, no, it's just one of those things that, you know, they need us when we need them, kind of thing, and we you know, whatever, we just move on. But now I can see more of that. I'm saying in the last 2-3 years, this is, like I said, I'm speaking for me personally, where it's actually, you know, a partnership, and they appreciate what we do. They appreciate that we bring business to them and things like that. And this is excluding the whole issue with the commission and things like that. Okay, so because I know my hotel partners, they can't control that, right? They can't control that. That's coming from higher than their pay grade. So, and I understand that. And that's another issue for another time. But without that, I mean, not, you know, going further into the commission part, but they do partner, and they do understand that we, you know, we do serve a valuable part of the process, and I do appreciate that now.
You, since you brought it up, and it's one of the things that I teach on the webinar that people listen to before they got here, is when I was with Helms Briscoe, and I started in 2005, the partnership was a real strong term. You know, our partners, our hotel partners, our destination partners, and I found, this is my personal experience, and I don't know if yours has any parallel to this, but I was a partner until they got, no, let me rephrase that. I was a client until they got the RFP, and then I became a partner. And when I became a partner, they didn't respect me as a client. It was less about Michelle and Avery Murphy, and not that it's about Michelle or Avery Murphy. It is about our clients, but it's my job to take care of my client, and it's the hotel's job to take care of me, that I can take care of my client. And so I am saying it, and we are partners in as much as any client is a partner with a supplier. Like, both parties have to work together to get the business done. But as a partner, I've had conversations with hotels where they were like, well, you know, Michelle, why would we lower the rate $10? You know, you make less money because you're commissioned on it. And I shared with the hotels, like, I'm in this for the long run. I'm not in this to make, 10 cents more because the rate is higher, $10. I'm in this so that my client gets the best value. Price is a part of value, but I find that when the hotels think of us as clients, sometimes that changes how they interact with us. And partner is almost kind of like, oh, you're my family. We take you for granted. You know how sometimes with family, we don't make the time for them, or
Yes.
we bring our bad day of work home with us instead of leaving it at work where it was a bad day and now we're at home with our family and this is the space to be good. I think that kind of partnership, from my experience, has gone into that, oh, your family, you'll understand.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get it, but that doesn't mean that you can just roll right over me, right? So that's just a little distinction. Do you have any comments or thoughts with regard to that?
No, you hit it right on the head. I mean, I agree with that as well, and I think that I can echo that. I mean, you presented that so eloquently. So I have nothing else to say other than I do agree with what you're saying. Yes, that does make sense, and you do kind of they sometimes they expect you to give up certain things because you are, family, whatever, or we can do that. That's just Russell. We'll take care of him. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. So yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I do get that.
Cool. So usually, since we are doing this during the time of the pandemic, and it's had such an enormous impact on the hospitality industry, much more so than I anticipated that it would when we started the shelters in place in California mid-March. And I don't even want to put an adjective in front of it, but it's going to be a part of our industry for months, possibly years to come. What is it that you have seen from the hospitality sales professionals out there? Because I believe that there's always lemonade in every set of lemons. I just, no matter how many bushels of lemons you have, there's lots of lemonade there too. It's a matter of perspective. And I believe that there are things that our hospitality sales professionals are learning that are good practices during this pandemic that can be carried forward. Have you discovered any of those, and what are those that you would like to see hospitality sales professionals do that they're currently doing that they didn't do prior to C-19 that they're now doing, that when we do get back to whatever this normal is going to look like for us, whatever we call normal in the future, when we do get there, what would you like to see continue on?
I would like to see, and this is something I use, and in fact we're using it right now. Is technology. It's the Zoom calls and things like that. Because before, I mean, either it was just a phone call or email and things like that. But now you can actually get someone in front of you. I mean, although they're not physically in front of you, but I mean, it's there's an image of you, and then you can still see emotions and things like that. And you can have a conversation. So, I mean, that's one thing that has come out of this. I mean, that's one thing that has enhanced my business, is because now I'm able to have conversations with people. I mean, just like on my radio show, before people would turn me down for an interview because they couldn't come into the studio. Well, guess what? You don't have to come into the studio. All you need is your phone and Zoom, and you can be, we can see you. I mean, and that's important to have. It's still FaceTime. It's not, we can't hug each other and all that stuff, high five, but we can still do that. So that's one thing. And then, I mean, just I'm getting more phone calls now than I ever have. These are just wellness. I call them wellness phone calls, like, hey, how you doing? And, things like that. And then eventually they get around to, are you working on anything? Are you canceling anything? Have you canceled anything? They generally want to know what's going on with with you and your business, you know, or your book of business and what your clients are doing and things like that. So, I mean, hopefully that stuff, because I didn't get, I mean, you know, unless you were working on a piece of business or you were, I don't know, maybe just had a conversation with them not too long ago in the, you know, not too far distant, in the past, they weren't calling. I mean, I wasn't getting a lot of phone calls. Right now I get now, and this is not a hotel. This is, it's called Al High. We familiar with Al
Yes.
High. Michelle Russell is her name. So how can I forget that? Michelle, I deal with a bunch of Michelles, and then my name is Russell. So how can
Right.
I forget her name?
It was
But
meant to be.
Exactly. So she's been sending things like on a weekly basis, has to do with music. I mean, just something that has nothing to do with what's going on or asking for business and things like that. It's just a playlist. And I'm sure they send it to everybody. I don't know, but I'm just talking about me and how it makes me feel, right? So she develops, or Al High develops, a playlist, and they email it to the planners, or at least her clients or whatever, and I get them and I listen to them. You know, sometimes I like the music, sometimes I don't, but it's just the thought behind that, right? It's not all
Right.
about the business and things like that. It's about, because, you know, music can be emotional, and, you know, people react to emotion different ways, or music different ways and things like that. So I think that's great. So whoever came up with that idea, I just wish more people would do that, and less ask me for business and more, you know, like, hey, just you know, just listen to the music. Happy Friday. Here's my, you know, my weekly playlist. You know, check this out. You know, tell me what you think. Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. So I mean, hopefully after this is all said and done, I don't think it's ever going to be said and done, because things are going to be different, and we're going to go through different phases of this. Although we know that hotels are starting to reopen, and Vegas is going to reopen and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, what is that really still going to look like? We don't know at this point, because it's all fluid. But as long as sales professionals are still, you know, they're not just calling or emailing asking for business, and they're being creative about how they're doing things. You know, and one thing that we're not doing, and that I'm not seeing, is that, okay, now I know Vegas is opening up and things like that, but what about the other hotels that are just, you know, hotels in, I don't know, LA, San Diego, whatever? Are they open? Are they open? You know, because no one's promoting anything. No one's putting things out. No one's saying, oh, we're open, you know, or we're doing this, we're doing that. No one's really promoting their hotel. No one's, and I always mention this on my show, you know, staying relevant, because I need to know which hotels are functioning now and how they're functioning. Are they doing okay? So I'm not, unless I actually actively go look for them, no one's really putting things on social media and things like that. I mean, some of them are, but a lot of the hotels that I have used are not. I'm like, well, what the heck? How do I know if they're open or not? Do I have to call them? Do I have to find, you know? And I follow a lot of people through LinkedIn, through all the various platforms on social media, because I want to see. I can't make this statement without me doing my homework first.
Right.
So I just hope that, you know, more sales professionals, if they're working, and that can have something to do with it as well, because a lot of sales staffs have been minimized, or people have been laid off or furloughed. I understand that, but there's someone that has to be still in charge of their marketing. And if that's, like I said, the social media marketing is what I'm talking about, because I'm heavy on social media stuff and branding. Okay, getting your brand out there, letting people know what's going on. I mean, I'm at a standstill as far as my business, but guess what? I'm still putting things out there. I mean, I still, whatever that is, I still have a radio show. I mean, I'm still, you know, talking to hospitality professionals every day. And I just hope that moving forward, your hospitality sales professionals are doing the same thing. So.
Brilliant. Well, first and foremost, Zoom is, I haven't heard anybody, I haven't thought about it, and you are so correct. When I started to do the interviews for the Hospitality Sales Masterclass, a lot of people didn't even know of Zoom. I had somebody say, oh, I learned about Zoom from Michelle, and I was like, wow, because now it's as commonplace in our industry as having a cell phone. Zoom is
Exactly.
and it's not the same energy exchange, but there's more energy that is exchanged, because you can, as you said, see this facial expressions and you know, even what we choose for our backgrounds and so forth, that's interesting as well, right? You know, how we go about that. You know, that's to me, the whole Zoom phenomenon is, I agree with you. I hope that that gets carried forward. And to your second point on what could still be implemented, the only one that I saw is San Francisco in their updates. As you scroll through their emails and you go down, there's a link and it has all of the hotels that are participating in this promotion, and you can click on the link and see which hotels are open, when they're open, when they're doing business. I haven't, you know, I'm not opening up every single email, but San Francisco, I happen to like the folks at the CVB there. So yeah, relationships, that's how they matter. I actually like look at the email a little bit more, right? But I haven't seen other destinations, and that seems like a pretty easy thing for a destination to do, is like say, hey, here's the hotels that are participating in this program, and you know, here's a block of them, and you just click and you can see when they're opening. That would be simple enough to do for the destinations that are working and active, to
Exactly.
you know, put a little something on their list. Well, hey, that's it. We did it. Woohoo! So
Very
thank you
good. That
so
was
much
fun.
for joining me here on the Hospitality Sales Masterclass. Is there any
You're welcome.
last words that you want to leave for the students?
No, I love what you're doing, and please keep it up. And if ever anything I can do, even for you or your students, they have questions for me. I mean, feel free to reach out, because that's one thing I'm about. And I mentioned this on the show, and then you've heard it before. It's all about collaboration and connecting with people, and that's what I'm trying to do. So, however I can do that to help with anything, I mean, that's what I'm here to do. So, I do appreciate the time that you set aside for this, and I was looking forward to it. I was excited about it. So like I said, this is my first time that someone's actually interviewed me, so it was fun. Maybe I'll do a couple more of these. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Be groovy.